Hi, this is Ginny, and this is Visayan America. So I'm still on this recording app for Spreaker. So I have to figure it out how I can add music because I always like to talk with background music, or actually background music is added later, but I like the idea that there's background music. Maybe I can still edit this later, but I'm kind of feeling lazy. So for today, I'm going to talk about my New York experience or some of my New York experience. Anyway, I did have one of my dreams come true. I was able to work in New York City. In particular, I was able to work in Manhattan. And I kid you not, that was one of the highlights of my stay here in America. It's always been a dream, to work in New York City, and I did that for 2 years. It was almost 2 years, but yeah, approximately 2 years. And so I'm a healthcare worker, so I did home health. I worked in Lower East Side and sometimes on West Village. Basically, my area was 35th Street, East and West, from 35th Street below. So that was my area. It could be on the east, the west, the middle, wherever. And sometimes I did go up above 35th Street, Midtown. I think I went to Uptown a couple times. I think I was just helping out. But my area was downtown. And it probably is the best area. It's very historical there. That's where a lot of the immigrants lived before, and Chinatown is in there. It's a really bustling town, part of the city. It's also not very safe, actually. So I remember that around 4 o'clock, especially during winter, when it starts to get dark, I had to get out of there. I didn't have any experience, but I did hear in the news, at least in the block where, I had to see like a couple of my patients or clients. There was like 2 murders or something. And I was like, it was like literally in the same area. But I think it happened like at 6 p.m. and the other one happened at 7 p.m. or earlier, maybe early in the morning. I forgot. But yeah, so it's not that safe, but nothing really happened to me while I worked there, and I rain or shine, I was there. I don't recall that maybe I took a few days off, but I was mostly working there all the time, at least 5 days in a week. And if I recall, when I was working there, that was the time of, the Ebola outbreak. And I remember there was one guy, I think he was a medical doctor or a nurse, I forgot. He was a healthcare worker. And remember the news, it was all over the news that he was admitted in one of the hospitals in maybe Bellevue, if I recall, or NYU, I forgot, really. But anyway, he was there, and I remember there was a lot of media people, the vans, like Fox News, CNN, everybody was out there. They were just waiting outside, lining up, outside of the hospital, maybe waiting to hear if the guy made it or not. So luckily he did make it. So I remember that was very memorable. And around the UN Avenue, me and my coworker, we were just walking, and I think she was teaching me the ropes. I may have been shadowing her. And anyway, we waited because there was like a barricade, and it was like, what's going on? Like, who's coming? And apparently it was Obama. So we waited like 5 or 10 minutes, and we saw Obama, and I saw Obama, and I saw Obama's ear. He always talks about his ear, and I kid you not, it is humongous. But yeah, he's like larger than life guy, and I literally saw him. He was like a couple feet from me, but he was in like this car that was see-through, which is kind of weird, but I could see him and he was in there, and it was nice. I waved and people were like, yay, Obama. So that was my brush with the president before, when things were good, I guess, before stuff happened, and we know what stuff happened after that. Anyway, when things were normal, and those are good days, and I think if my stay in New York, I think that was the time too when in my area there was a flasher. So there was this guy, and he was literally making the rounds in several of the buildings that I worked at or had patients at. This was, I think, on the Lower East Side, maybe closer to Chinatown, Grand Street area. Anyway, or maybe even close to the projects. I think it was closer to the projects near the East River area. Anyway, he would go inside people's apartments and just the basement, not the basement, but the ground floor. For some reason, there's codes, but he was able to get in, and he would just flash himself. Like he would just, he was a flasher, and luckily I didn't bump into him, and I think he eventually got caught. And at around the time I was working there too, I recall that I was freaking out because I think there was a subway slasher, and there were like several victims, and that's really crazy. I remember that I would always sit next to the exit just in case, and I was always like on the lookout. I was very hyper vigilant, not waiting, but just wondering if like, oh, is that the slasher and stuff. It was really scary, and I think he terrorized the subway. I think he went on the 6 train a lot, and he terrorized the subway for several weeks. So, but I heard that right now, post-pandemic, it's even scarier right now because there's people pushing people on the train tracks, which was really scary. It happened. There was one woman, I think she was a governess. She worked for an influential family, and she got pushed by like a deranged woman. And this was sometime in 2015. And it was really sad, and it was scary. And I remember every time that before I jump into the subway car, I would always stay near the wall. I never would have anyone behind me just to be safe. You have to be careful. That's how you survive. And luckily nothing like that ever happened, but I don't know about now. Just based on the news, with the subway shootings and like all the crazy muggings and like crazy things going on in New York, I don't think I would feel safe. But years ago when I was there, 2014, 2015, 2016, it was kind of safe. I'm not saying it was 100% safe, but it was safe. Nothing happened to me, Maybe I got pushed once inside the train. Someone was like asking for my name, and I pretended I didn't speak English, and like he pushed me on the side, but that was it. I was able to get away from it and jumped out, before things escalated. And that's really how you survive. Like New York City, you just have to walk faster than everybody else, which is like impossible because everybody in New York walks like maybe 55 miles an hour, like they speed like Speedy Gonzales. So which was, I found out, on my first day in Manhattan, I found out that the normal walk that we have is not the normal New York walk. It's the normal New York walk is really fast. And I'm not talking like 20 miles an hour. I'm talking more. It's like people really speed up. And at first, I recall it was my first month of just walking around New York. I was so exhausted because it was like hard, running, not really running. It's almost running, walking. It's almost running, but it's still walking. But going at the pace that everybody's going in New York, it's crazy. I kid you not. And I lost a lot of weight, which was a good thing. Yeah, and I do another subway story. I think the one that really stands out was this homeless guy. So he got stuck in between so there's a door, like the engineer can lock it or close it. And so this guy, he was homeless and he was just like screaming. He was like, and he was stuck in between the door. Like he didn't budge, like he wouldn't get out. So the engineer like had no other choice but to close the door on him so that he would go away. But he was just like screaming. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna budge and stuff. So I walked past him, which was lucky for me because this so the engineer kept like closing the door on him. So eventually his pants came off. Like his pants fell down, and then he was wearing, underwear, and I saw his butt side. But unfortunately for those that were in front of him, they saw a different view. I'm not going to say what kind of view they had, but you get my drift. And I remember I'm like, oh my God, I'm so lucky I wasn't at the front end. And it was really funny. And eventually the guy did move. So obviously he was not mentally stable, but it was kind of funny that, those things happen, and it's New York, crazy things happen. But what was so crazy? After he got out, people were just, we paused for a bit, and then after that, it's like, oh, okay, he's gone. And then we go back to normal. Like there's people there ignore a lot of stuff. I guess we're just used to like, weird people, I guess. But there's like some weird stuff going on sometimes, yeah. And I think one of the most funniest was this guy, and he was bringing like a glass cross, and I think he was on the internet for a bit, so he's kind of internet famous before. So what he would do was he would go on a train, and then I think this was the N train. Anyway, we were going to Coney Island, and he was just like dragging this luggage, like it was a piece of luggage. It was huge, and this it was like a cross made of mirrors, and then he was just saying like, yes, please join me, like all the women, please join my whatever religion or something. And he said he only accepts women, and it is so funny because he would just like surprise women. He would say, you woman, come join me. And it was so funny. I wish I filmed it, but yeah, I think my phone before was kind of crappy, so I didn't get a chance to film it, but it was really funny. And he would just, he terrorized the women, and he was like, you, ma'am, join me, join my religion. I only accept women, so there's no men allowed. It's just me and then the women. And it was so funny. He was like crazy, but crazy in a funny way. And I think that was he was one of the people that really stood out for me. There was also this guy in Union Square Park. He was like, he was already like, he was a regular, so he was just wearing underwear, and he would just be dancing and be happy. I don't know what drugs he was on, but it was some kind of drugs, but that was his shtick. He was just dancing, and he was just being himself in his underwear, and just people were just like watching, like they would watch him, and I'm like, oh, okay. It was funny. What else can I remember from New York? My subway stories, not really subway, but I do recall, because I'm kind of I was new to the country and I was kind of naive. And at the same time, like I'm a healthcare worker, I really do help people. And so a couple of times I have helped people. I think they're homeless people that are stuck in wheelchairs, and then I have helped them, rescued them from the street. I would just push them to the sidewalk or the curb because they were in the middle of the road, man, and they had difficulty getting back up on the curb or the sidewalk, and I helped a bunch of them. And I think there was this one guy, and he didn't have any legs, and he told me, please help me, ma'am, take me to the Chinese restaurant over there. So I pushed him to the Chinese restaurant. And when I got there to the Chinese restaurant, so the people inside, they were maybe Chinese, but they were Asian, and then they were like, they told me, don't let him in. It's funny. So what happened was, I said, what? So you don't want me to get in, but how about the guy who wants to get in? And they said, no, don't get him. Don't let him get in, So I ended up leaving the poor guy because I think he was drunk, or I don't know, maybe in using some kind of drugs. I don't know. I felt bad. I'm like, dude, so I'm just going to leave this guy here. He wanted to go inside, but he can't go inside. The staff didn't want him inside. So it was kind of funny. Funny, not funny, And I think one of my best memories or favorite memories was, so I belonged to this movie group, and we went to this after watching movies, we would just go eat, and people were really friendly, and it was really, really a good group, I loved that group. Anyway, we went to this, I think it was called Art Cafe or something, but there was this, so we were already ordering our food, we already ordered, right? And then this staff member, this woman, she kept chasing a little mouse, and she kept chasing the mouse around. And then while we were eating, I'm like, oh, dude, hope there's no mouse, no mouse in our food and stuff. Maybe we don't have to pay. So I think the organizer complained and said, there's a mouse, we should get something for someone chasing a mouse. That's not very sanitary. So we eventually just got free shots, which is better than nothing. But hopefully the mouse didn't get in none of the mouse got in no mice got in the food. But yeah, I think I may have had pasta. I don't really remember what I had, but it was kind of funny because we were talking like, are we going to get our food for free? Because we were just laughing, this woman. So this poor woman, so I think she was one of the waitresses or the attendants, and she was just chasing this poor mouse, this tiny mouse. She was chasing this mouse around, and yeah, it was kind of funny. And yeah, I think I may have more New York stories, but it just kind of, I think I just remember the highlights, 2 years. That's a lot. I think another, maybe there's one more memory I have to share. So this guy, so I'm Asian, right? So I'm walking in downtown. I think it was on the First Avenue, Second Avenue area. Anyway, so I'm walking, and then this guy just jumps out, and he does a Bruce Lee sound, hiya, At first I was like, what the hell? And then he was doing the karate chop movement. So I think because he saw that I was Asian, maybe he was taunting me, but it was really kind of funny, at least for me. I didn't get offended, but it was really funny the way that he was just pretending to be Bruce Lee. But yeah, it's not every day that someone jumps up and then pretends to be a martial artist or Bruce Lee. So yeah, those are my funny New York stories, subway stories. There could be more. I have to really try to remember, but yeah, everything just, when it was just like I was so overwhelmed when I first came here. I'm just like, I just remember the highlights. So yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of other things happened, but those are the ones that stand out. And thank you very much for listening, and hope you listen to my other show, like other episodes. Thank you.